Welcome to Dr. Pam Unleashed, where we skip the gimmicks and get real about what helps pets actually thrive. I'm Dr. Pam, functional medicine vet, symptom decoder, and your guide to a vibrant, no BS pet care. Let's get into it. This episode is part of The Dish, where I break down feeding strategies and food truths for real pet vitality. Because when it comes to what's in the bowl, details matter, and the right choices change everything. Hey there, I'm Dr. Pam, and this is Dr. Pam Unleashed, featuring our mini-series, The Dish. This is your crash course in real food feeding. No gimmicks, no overwhelm, just clear guidance so you can stop guessing and start nourishing. This episode's a little different. We've combined all 6 major food formats into one masterclass style guide. And here's the bonus. If you make it through on the free Hero FM app, you'll get to keep the episode and the downloads forever. You get the goods and you get to keep it forever. So grab a notepad or just a leash for that walk you've been meaning to take. We're diving into what works, what's hype, and what I actually recommend. And remember, stick around, because at the end, I'll give you access to my real food cheat sheet with my personal picks for each format. Let's get started. Let's talk about home-cooked diets. These are often full of love, but not always full of balance. Most home-cooked meals miss the key nutrients like calcium and trace minerals, especially when built around chicken and rice. Now, I'm not anti-home-cooked. In fact, I often prescribe it briefly as part of a therapeutic plan. But if it's not guided by a vet who understands nutritional balance, it can cause more harm than help in the long run. Think of home-cooked as short-term reset, not long-term plan. Next up, dehydrated diets. Dehydrated diets are like instant oatmeal for dogs. Add warm water and boom, you've got a warm meal that's definitely a step above kibble. They're great for travel, busy families, or as a starting point after dry food. But many dehydrated diets are heavy on starches and light on organ meat and nutrient density. I use them as a base layer or a topper, especially during transition, but rarely as the whole story. Now that we've covered dehydrated diets, let's move into the shelf-stable formats that pack a little more punch, freeze-dried and air-dried. Freeze-dried food is basically raw food with the water removed through a gentle freezing and vacuum process. This helps preserve the nutrients and enzymes in a way that mimics fresh food while giving you shelf stability and ease. I love freeze-dried options for dogs who need the therapeutic benefits of raw, but whose families aren't quite ready for a fridge full of liver and hearts. It's great for pet parents who want the healing power of raw, but who aren't ready for full-on freezer management. You can feed it as is, crumble it over other food, or rehydrate it to make it more digestible, which is what I almost always recommend. Here's the catch. Not all freeze-dried foods are created equal. Some are meat-forward and balanced, while others sneak in starches and fillers. Always read the label and look for nutrient profile, not just a fancy ingredient list. For sensitive or immune-compromised dogs, this can be a safe on-ramp to a raw-style diet someday. We're staying in the shelf-stable territory, but this next one has a bit more chew. Let's talk air-dried. Air-dried food is made by gently drying raw ingredients with low heat, sort of like jerky. This is one of my favorite food formats. It's convenient, nutrient-dense, and many brands include organ meats and clean ingredients. My top pick, New Zealand Naturals. It's softer, breaks apart easily, and tends to be better tolerated. Air-dried is extremely calorically dense, sometimes 3 times as much as raw. For small dogs, that's great. For big dogs, it can be expensive and fattening if you overfeed. Watch out for brands that use lots of starches or fillers just to ride out the current popular trends. Shelf-stable diets are great for convenience, but what if you're dealing with chronic conditions or a dog that needs something more therapeutic? Let's talk about lightly cooked. Lightly cooked food is one of my go-to choices for therapeutic diets. It's gentle on digestion, helps calm inflammation, and is usually well tolerated by picky eaters and sensitive dogs. These meals are always packaged and sold frozen and typically cooked sous vide, a gentle method that preserves nutrients and improves digestibility. That makes them more balanced than typical home-cooked meals and more likely to include organ meats. They're not shelf-stable, so you'll need freezer space and a little planning. And while they're convenient, they're also one of the most expensive formats, often pricier than raw. Great for small dogs, but for big dogs, it can get quite costly, so we often use it in combination with another format. This format is trendy, so many brands include fillers and starches. Label reading is essential. When you find a clean, meat-forward, lightly cooked option, it's a powerful tool, especially when raw isn't a good fit. No raw handling, no heavy sanitizing, just thaw, warm, and serve. Now for the finale, frozen raw food. This one gets the most love, the most confusion, and the most debate. As the final format in this series, raw feeding is about as close to nature as you can get. It mimics what a dog would eat in the wild: muscle meat, organs, bones, connective tissue, and ingesta. When it works, it really works. Improved digestion, healthier skin, lean muscle, and stable energy. But here's the caveat. Raw is only as effective as your dog's ability to digest it. If the gut biochemistry isn't strong or the microbiome is imbalanced, you can end up with bloating, diarrhea, or food sitting like a brick in the belly. I use raw food with dogs who are healthy, younger, or already showing signs that their digestive fire is strong. When in doubt, I start somewhere else first. Also important, don't mix kibble with raw. They digest at a different rate, and it can confuse the system. I'm not trying to sell you dog food. I'm trying to protect your dog's biology. These marketing giants, whether they sell kibble or whole food, are in the business of selling bags, not health. Raw food requires a high-functioning digestive system. Kibble shuts that down. It's not just incompatible, it's counterproductive. If you want to know the raw food brands I actually trust and recommend, good news. They're listed in the cheat sheet we'll be giving you at the end of this episode. But before we wrap up, I want to give you a few pro tips that didn't make it into the earlier breakdown, because there's a lot of marketing madness around raw food diets. Consider it a bonus segment. Let's start with this. As I mentioned previously, raw and kibble don't mix. I don't care what the pet food brands advertise. This isn't about marketing, it's about physiology. Raw food requires strong gastric biochemistry, acids, enzymes, timing. Kibble suppresses that same digestive fire. When you combine the two, you create confusion in the gut and often a mushroom cloud of symptoms. Whether you serve them in the same bowl or alternate days, it still throws the system off. Now let's talk sourcing. It's not enough to say you're feeding raw. You need to know how it was raised, what's in it, and how it was handled. As a quick note, grabbing raw meat from the grocery store does not count as feeding a raw diet. That's risky, not real. Most people don't realize that the USDA allows up to 25% bacterial contamination in grocery store meats. 25%. Scary, huh? But we cook our meat. The raw food diets do not. Stick with the brands that use safety protocols designed for pets, not people. You want companies who prevent contamination, not the ones who brag about surviving it. Look for meat-forward recipes with clearly listed organ meats. Avoid brands that sneak in starches, quote-unquote, for balance. Choose products that are flash frozen and processed minimally. And yes, read the labels. Not a banner, not an influencer caption, the actual label. And speaking of marketing, watch the raw washing. Just because something says raw freeze-dried or raw air-dried doesn't mean it's raw anymore. That's just branding. Think about it. Everything starts as raw. You wouldn't call a home-cooked meal raw home-cooked, would you? So don't let the buzzword fool you. Let's also be smart about safety. Thaw frozen raw in the fridge, not in the counter. Use a dedicated container and tools for handling raw food. And don't treat your dog's dinner like a backyard science experiment. Use common sense and clean prep, the same you would use for yourself. Oh, and one more thing. Yes, wild dogs and wolves eat days-old carcasses, but they don't eat kibble, they don't eat starchy treats, and they don't get vaccinated out the wazoo. Your dog is not a wild wolf, And not because they're omnivores. Dogs are still biologically carnivores, but decades of processed food have depressed their digestive resilience. The pet food marketing world wants you to believe your dog thrives as an omnivore. They don't. They adapt, and there's the difference. And finally, if you forget to thaw raw food for dinner, don't panic. You can rotate in air-dried, freeze-dried, or lightly cooked for a meal. When in doubt, pull a cooked food out. So there you have it, 6 food formats, a few raw truth bombs, and the no-spin roadmap to real nourishment. If you want the shortcut to the brands I actually use and recommend, they've got you. And since you made it to the end, nicely done, by the way, you've unlocked access to my real food cheat sheet with all my top food brand picks, organized by format. If you're listening inside the Hero FM app, it's yours to download and keep, episode and all, forever. Thanks for listening, and thanks for caring enough to do things differently. This is Dr. Pam Unleashed, and together, we're making dogs healthy again.